This is Thames News from London.
Hunt for baby kidnapper goes to Australia. Threat of big job losses if Ford strike goes ahead. Cancer cure, vital hospital research under threat. And Bowie on life, loves and his new tour. Hello and a very good evening. The hunt for the missing newborn baby, Alexandra Griffiths, has spread 10,000 miles away to Australia. Detectives have revealed that a new witness believes she may have spoken to the kidnapper at St Thomas's Hospital 3 weeks before the baby was taken. A woman fitting the baby snatcher's description told the witness she was planning to emigrate to Sydney. Police are now checking airlines and have contacted the Australian authorities.
Police held a news conference at St Thomas's Hospital to reveal dramatic information. They unveiled what they described as a computerised photograph. The two pictures were produced using a special technique only just made available to the Metropolitan Police. The images were produced with the help of 6 key witnesses, including the parents of baby Alexandra, who was kidnapped from the South London Hospital 12 days ago. A startling disclosure was made by the detective in charge of the case about a possible suspect. A witness has come forward to reveal a conversation she had with a mysterious woman in the female toilets at St Thomas's. The woman, who answered the description of the police artist's impression, told the woman, "I'm going to adopt a baby. My husband, the baby and I are going to Australia to start a new life."
If this woman is not the abductor and she remembers that incident, I would like her to get in touch with me so that I can eliminate her from my inquiry.
The woman said her husband was a milkman and they were going to stay with her sister in Sydney. Police set up a hotline hoping to make contact with the kidnapper 2 days after she's thought to have phoned the hospital to apologise for taking the baby. Police have denied they blundered by not having anyone monitoring the calls. Detectives working round the clock trying to solve the case are sensitive to claims they were slow off the mark holding a reconstruction. It took place a week after the kidnapping when several patients on the maternity ward had left. There's criticism police took their time releasing an artist's impression of the suspect.
I didn't want to confuse the members of the public, so if that meant me producing it a day late, I don't apologise. I think we've got the best artist impression we can possibly have, and I don't apologise for being slightly late.
The mother, Dawn Griffiths, aged 20, and her boyfriend, 25-year-old Geoffrey Harris, who lived together at Gypsy Hill in South London, have returned to the capital after staying with Dawn's parents in Middlesbrough. Dawn says she wants to be close to the search for baby Alexandra, snatched from her when just 1 day old. Mark Wadsworth, Thames News.
Ford workers got a grim warning as voting started on a call for an all-out strike. The company warned jobs will go, pay will be lost and foreign competitors will cash in if the strike goes ahead. And they claim workers at Dagenham will suffer most. Union leaders say the latest pay offer should be rejected because Ford's profits mean they can afford more. Sharon Doughty reports.
As nearly 11,000 workers at Dagenham took part in a secret ballot today, the company warned a strike could close the plant down. In a letter delivered this morning, Dagenham's operation manager told the workforce, "The stakes are high, the choice is yours." He said, "We at Dagenham are most likely to suffer. There will be substantial loss of wages, major damage to job security and your plant's reputation, and you will be helping Japanese and European business competitors win our business." Ford have offered an increase of 10.2% this year, which amounts to an average £21 to £24 a week. Next year's figure will be 8% or inflation plus 2.5%. Many workers going into the strike ballot this morning said it's simply not enough.
Do you like to vote for a strike?
Yeah.
Why?
So I'm a skilled bloke and I'm not getting the money I should be.
Are you likely to vote for a strike today?
Inflation is increased by the government, 15%, and that's not our fault. If the inflation is coming down, we'll accept single figure, but it's not coming up.
After meeting with union officials later in the day, most of the workers said a strike was the only option.
Did you vote for a strike?
Yes, I voted for a strike.
And you think that that's the answer, do you?
I think yes. I think the company have made £676 million profit this year. I believe next year they will be making something like £700 million profit, and I think we should have a fairer share of that than what they've offered at the moment.
We've explained to them that the offer that's before them is the best that is achievable through the process of negotiation. To achieve more, it would be necessary, to enter into an all-out strike commencing at the end of this week.
A strike like the one in 1988, which halted production for nearly 2 weeks, could cost Fords millions. Union officials refuse to predict the result of today's ballot. They won't know the official outcome until early tomorrow morning. But some workers at Dagenham say they may strike on Friday, even if the rest of the workforce vote against it. Sharon Doughty for Thames News.
Meanwhile, ambulance leaders are tonight urging striking crews to go back to work after a meeting of London's union officials voted against a strike ballot. The outcome was a victory for union negotiator Roger Poole, who is opposed to strike action. But rebel crews at Tottenham, Edmonton and Bounds Green have vowed to stay on strike until Thursday, when they'll review their position. We'll be talking to them shortly. First, this from Ken Andrew.
Union leaders arriving for today's meeting were fully aware of growing calls from Sunland and areas for an all-out strike, a move which would inevitably fragment the national union resolve and weaken their negotiating position. Shop stewards from the northwest area arrived with a 2-to-1 vote in favour of a strike from their crews.
We've done everything else we can do. We've been round and round in circles. Roger Poole doesn't want to go any further than he's gone so far. So,
what do you feel about Mr. Poole's leadership?
It's been good. It's been very good. But we've got, he can't go any farther.
However, shop stewards emerged after 3 hours with all talk of a damaging strike having evaporated. They'd voted 57-12 against a national strike ballot, with a similar figure for a separate unofficial strike in the capital.
We feel that the current action is what's going to win this dispute. But more importantly, the London ambulance crews have got such a bond now between them and the public. Because the public have supported us so overwhelmingly since this dispute began, is that we feel that we cannot turn our backs on them people.
Chief union negotiator Roger Poole urged all striking ambulance crews to call off their action.
The sense of discipline and unity in the London Ambulance Service is very, very high indeed. And I have every confidence now that every single ambulance man and woman in London, regardless of what their personal opinions are, will stand behind that decision.
So, a persuasive Roger Poole has won the day, and by all accounts it didn't need that much persuasion. But there's no doubt the longer this dispute goes on, there'll be more calls for an intensification of the action. And even as the meeting was going on, the dispute in Essex was escalating, with most ambulance crews not answering any calls. They're angry at management withdrawing insurance cover. Anyone injured whilst answering a call, such as these two ambulancemen from Brentwood, whose vehicle was in a crash, will not receive compensation.
The 19 ambulancemen here at Tottenham, and they've decided to stay on strike until they have a meeting on Thursday. They'll revise their decision then. Chris Lambert, why have you decided to stay out until Thursday?
Well, we've seen the results of the ballot from the stewards today, and as it's a complex vote, we think it's only fair that we should have a complex meeting. We've got a statement. In view of the outcome of today's meeting, we'll be holding a complex meeting on Thursday morning to review our present position.
Are you worried that you'll be out on a limb until Thursday and different from everyone else?
Well, we will be out on a limb, but it's only fair that we have a democratic vote to decide what we're going to do next as a democratic decision to strike.
How strong are the feelings here? Do you think your people feel more strongly than at other ambulance stations?
Our people feel very strongly. I cannot make a statement on other ambulance stations because I haven't had a feedback from them.
Now, is it 100% strike, or in certain circumstances are you prepared to go out?
No, we're prepared to go out. To any member of the public who comes to the station. The other night we went out in a private car to deal with a young child, hydrocephalus patient, who had fluid build up on the brain.
And you were able perhaps to save him, weren't you?
Well, yes, because the father dialed 999 and they were told they could not get an ambulance for at least 45 minutes or maybe longer. And when we went round there, the child was unconscious.
So you actually took him to hospital?
Yes.
And you will continue to do that although you're on strike?
Yes, most definitely.
OK, so from here at Tottenham, where they're going to be on strike until Thursday, back to the studio.
Cancer specialists are warning that changes in NHS funding could severely hit research at London's top hospitals. They say cash raised by charities to find new ways of beating the disease could end up being spent on patient care. Deborah Bain now reports.
Guy's Hospital in South East London has been at the forefront of cancer research for years. But now there are fears the government's plans to reorganise the health service could put this under threat. Today, the Imperial Cancer Research Fund demanded that more money be ploughed into research to help thousands of cancer patients live normal, active lives.
Any particular troubles at all?
No, not really.
Not that.
Staff at Guy's Hospital see almost 400 patients a week. They treat all forms of cancer, specialising in breast cancer, particularly looking for methods of removing the tumour without having to remove the breast.
Over the past few years, particular advances have been in the ability to treat breast cancer without the necessity for mastectomy, and also the use of drug treatment after operation, which can significantly lengthen patient survival.
Just going to bring the compression down now.
Almost half the unit's budget of £1.3 million is spent on patient care. They say they should be spending it all on research. The Imperial Cancer Research Fund fears if the white paper becomes law, then charities such as theirs will have a tough job deciding how much money to give to research in the future. However, the government wants hospitals to be more competitive and profitable. Critics say patients with long-term illnesses will suffer as hospital managers consider them too expensive to treat. But Professor Rubin thinks the white paper could be beneficial.
At the moment, we have to subsidise the provision of clinical services very substantially from our research funding. And if, under the white paper concepts, the money for patient care does flow into this hospital, that will release these research funds for an even expanded research programme.
Tonight, the government dismissed all claims that research in London will suffer. The Department of Health says there are plans to increase funds for teaching and research from April this year, which is a step forward rather than a step backwards. Deborah Bain for Thames News.
Bank clerks in the capital are demanding tough new security measures to protect them against armed robbers. A new report by their union reveals banks in the capital are 3 times more likely to be raided than branches elsewhere in the country. The union is now calling for urgent talks with the government about the problem.
Scenes like this have in the capital become an all too common occurrence. It's now estimated there are 3 raids on London banks or building societies each working day. And staff who fear for their safety want stricter security. Their union, BIFU, wants a coordinated approach.
We clearly live in a shotgun society, and what we would like to do is to see some body set up that would bring together the mutual partners, government, the public sector industries, health and safety executive, the employers, and of course our union, to discuss ways and means of minimising the threat to our members.
The union believes the Department of Employment should set up such a review panel. On the agenda, they want special training on how staff should deal with raids and a review of security systems and the layout of banks. The union also wants more professional counselling for the victims of raids. But Pauline Hedges, a spokeswoman for the major banks and herself the victim of 5 armed raids, believes enough is already being done.
The banks already do talk to the union through the Health and Safety Executive, and I think the feeling is that they're already doing a fair bit, and what good would anything further do? That the banks are individually looking at security.
It's been suggested that staff are perhaps pushed to go back to work without sufficient counselling after an incident. Do you think that's fair?
No, I don't. I have seen cases where staff were perfectly happy and relaxed until someone started talking to them about counselling. And they suddenly thought, oh, I am an important person, this is a wonderful thing I've just been through, therefore I must start overreacting.
The union says that's a disappointing response and it wants the government to intervene. Teresa Driscoll for Thames News.
Police are hunting a gang who robbed a woman motorist when she stopped to help another woman whose car had apparently broken down. The victim was flagged down in Aveley in Essex last night. As she got out of her car, she was grabbed by 2 men and knocked unconscious. They stole her handbag and jewellery. The Tate Gallery has taken on a new look in a £1 million gamble by its recently appointed director. Nicholas Sirota has rearranged the gallery and rehung hundreds of paintings in an attempt to attract more visitors. The new exhibition, Past, Present and Future, puts the emphasis firmly on British art. But has the Tate's biggest reorganisation for 20 years been a success? Christopher Rainbow asked the Evening Standard's art critic, Brian Sewell.
This is very exciting. This is one of the first galleries we've come to when you're entering the building. And it makes a very grand and positive statement about a particular English painter, Stanley Spencer, and those who worked in his circle. It's a gallery which immediately says you are looking at something important. And to anybody who comes from Germany or France, they are going to be stopped in their tracks by these things.
And what have they done here by rehanging these pictures? How have they improved the setting and made the pictures
Well, half these pictures one never saw before, and one never saw them in any kind of context, and one never saw them in any kind of perspective. And coming through that door and just suddenly seeing bang, bang, like that, it really does stop you. To me, this is a very exciting piece of hanging. It's had some adverse criticism, but what in fact the director has done is to take a very comfortable rotunda full of light and hang in it the most spare and remote pictures. And then the whole thing is humanized by the Boris Anwar floor.
So a gallery, in your view, that also works?
I think it works beautifully because for the first time in its life, this floor has been allowed to make a statement. When in the earlier hanging, one always lost the floor because the pictures were so rich and the colours were so rich. Here, because the pictures are so spare and remote, it makes the floor work. There is one very exciting thing, and that is the use of sculpture. He's taken a piece of pure, sugary, classical sculpture and made a point with it. Not only has he made it look beautiful in its own right by very skillful lighting, but by hanging it with the most fantastically wild, romantic pictures, he has made a point about neoclassicism and romanticism being intertwined. It's the most brilliant piece of hanging. It's made sense of pictures that have never made sense before. The general effect is marvellous. The gallery is transformed.
Priceless. The international rock and film star David Bowie is back in town. Bowie, who was born in Brixton, is in London to announce details of his new world tour. And he's promising to give fans exactly what they want to hear. He's asking them to telephone a special hotline where they can request their favourite numbers.
Back in the early 70s, a young man who was born in Brixton and brought up in Bromley recreated himself as Ziggy Stardust, the ultimate glam rock superstar. Ziggy first took to the stage at the Rainbow Theatre in Finsbury Park, then a leading musical venue. Nowadays the Rainbow is rather down on its luck, while Ziggy's creator has gone from strength to strength. David Bowie's latest project hasn't met with universal acclaim. His band Tin Machine is deliberately small-scale as a reaction against stadium rock. But today the 43-year-old megastar revisited the Rainbow Theatre, scene of his earlier triumph, to announce that he's getting back into the mainstream with a new world tour. To some extent it's a nostalgic exercise. Fans can vote by phone to choose the material he performs.
It's not going to be my last tour, but I'm afraid that it probably will be the last time that I'll be doing these songs. I think after I've done these 25, 30 songs, whatever we decide to do, I won't be doing them ever again. And I very much want to continue working the way that I'm working and keep myself excited. There's no point in continually doing songs and reflecting on a past.
On more personal matters, he was good-natured but evasive. He wasn't giving much away when I asked about his wedding plans.
You were talking about the wedding, David. I don't think we caught the date.
I wasn't talking about it.
Could you give us an idea when it's going to be?
I've absolutely no idea. You'll come up with a date, I'm sure.
At the end, the star proved he was still in fine voice, even if his memory occasionally lets him down.
This is ground control. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through.
Well, now, Sports Odyssey, and after 16 months out of the game, Stuart Robson has volunteered to come off the treatment bench to play in West Ham's quarter-final replay at Derby tomorrow. Still recovering from a serious pelvic injury, he's one of 15 players who could miss West Ham's biggest night of the season. But he tells us he's prepared to defy the pain barrier, even though he's unlikely to manage more than 45 minutes. The race to fight Mike Tyson is on 24 hours after Frank Bruno threw his hat into the ring for a rematch. Lennox Lewis, the London-born Olympic champion, declared his hand. He's starting a nationwide tour to make his name and learn the game, with Tyson the ultimate stop.
One man, one goal, one vision. That's the confident message behind Lennox Lewis's World Championship bid. His Olympic gold medal in Seoul proves he has the class. Now the fight is on to give him the professional experience to make a realistic challenge on Tyson territory. His face is still largely unknown at the moment, but as the publicity pictures grow and he fights regularly around the country, he hopes to become as familiar as Bruno himself. He's aiming for no less than 5 titles by the end of the year: British, Commonwealth, European, IBF and North American. It all starts next week against Noel Qualis at Bethnal Green. The fans, he says, are in for a treat.
Spectacular knockouts. They're going to see a lot of science in my boxing. They're going to really be enthused about it when they see me box.
So you've set your stall out for the next year. What about Tyson? When's that fight going to be?
I would say in a couple of years. You know, I'm not in any rush. I'm taking one step at a time, and when I'm ready, I'm going in to win, not to just box for the title, just to win.
People will say, what about a fight between you and Bruno?
Yeah, if he wants that, you know, I'm into that.
When could that happen, do you think?
I think that needs to be discussed, but I don't think he'll fight me.
Why not?
Younger, faster, better looking.
Nothing pretty about the weather. Here's Liz with all the news, starting with tonight.
Tonight will be mostly dry with clear periods and the occasional shower. The minimum temperature around 5 degrees Celsius in London, 1 degree out of town. The winds moderate southwesterly. Tomorrow continuing dry with sunny periods and a few showers. It will be colder than today, a maximum temperature of 8 degrees Celsius with a southwesterly strong, perhaps even gale force wind. And tonight's main news story: leaders of London's 2,000 ambulance men and women have decided not to call for a strike over the deadlocked pay dispute. And that's Thames News. More late headlines after news at 10, but from all of us here, have a very good evening.
It was just before midnight. Let me get this right. Last Monday, when...
2 years ago, Crime Stoppers asked for your help to fight violent crime. Not because it was the most prevalent, but simply because it was the type of crime which most people fear.
Anybody else around? But you could see another man in the distance.
Of course, Crime Stoppers cannot eliminate crime altogether, but with your help, we can make our society a safer place for everyone.
Thanks for calling Crime Stoppers. We'll pass that on, and if it results in an arrest, you could get a reward. Look, I don't need to know your name, but I can assure you there is a way of paying you without you identifying yourself. Call me back anyway, and particularly if you have any more information.
Why don't you call Crime Stoppers now?
In a moment, Thames Help looks at the help available for people with debt problems.